Last week on Monday, Tropical Storm Cristobal was coming through. Ended up really being a non-event, but that was the day LSU was supposed to begin its workouts for football. Remember, football players arrived on campus June 1, and then they went through testing, COVID testing, their sort of reacclimation, moved back into their on-campus housing, got their class schedules all put together. And then Monday they were set to begin workouts, and then Cristobal came and workouts were delayed until Tuesday. But last week was the first full week, and Tommy Moffitt was on off the bench this morning and said, so far, so good.
Week one was phenomenal. The effort, the attitude was great. Organization was good, and we're fired up for week two.
So this is week two, which begins today, the first full week. What's interesting about this is normally you have your morning group and you have your afternoon group when they go through workouts, and it's like half the team. These are groups of 20. Shelly Mullinex was basically tasked with putting together the protocols in a COVID world to keep the players as safe as possible and limit interaction and limit the possibility of viral infection spreading. So part of what they did, of course, is they limited it to groups of 20. Every player has their own weight rack when they go in, cleaned every day, cleaned in between sessions. They have that Clorox mister we talked about. They've got a lot of the protocols as well about entering the building, which doors to use, the flow of people coming into and from the building. So they're doing their best to make sure that everybody is safe and doing everything they can to prevent the spread of COVID. And as of now, there have been no reported cases among the LSU players that were tested. But as you heard Tommy Moffitt say, they're working in smaller groups. Now, that's different, obviously, just because the general vibe in a weight room, when you got 80 guys in a weight room and everybody's jacked up, and you see the videos all the time, a guy on a squat rack or on a bench press, and there's 15 guys around him yelling and getting them pumped up. Like, now you don't have that. You're working in smaller groups. Here was Tommy Moffitt talking a little bit about some of the challenges of working with smaller groups.
The bigger groups always have more energy, more enthusiasm, but I think it was a combination of the guys just excited about being back, being around their teammates, and finally having something to train with. I think made a huge difference for us, and it was surprisingly very well.
There was also good and bad week one, according to Tommy Moffitt. First, the not so good. The not so good was his update on the true freshmen. Now, remember, the true freshmen, certainly except for the early enrollees, but they didn't have the face-to-face interaction with the coaching staff, and so the first week wasn't stellar for the new guys.
Probably not nearly as motivated as the older guys, and in person didn't get to do a meeting to go over the alternative workout, alternative exercises. So we've got a ways to go with that group. Not bad, really good athletes, but we certainly got our work cut out for us as far as getting them ready for training camp.
Now, Tommy Moffitt this morning on OTB with Jordy and T-Bob, he did not name names of players, but my assumption would be that the freshmen who were on campus that were the early enrollees, guys like TJ Finley, Max Johnson, Eric Gilbert, Elias Ricks, the guys who were on campus as early enrollees who were working out and then started spring practice, they had more of a base that the other guys obviously didn't have. The guys that otherwise would have had face-to-face interaction with the coaches to start their weight training program that have been on their own to this point, except for maybe Zoom calls. But Tommy Moffitt did give, on the flip side of that, some really good news. So keep in mind, just for for perspective, it's been since March 13th that everything shut down. So you're talking 3 months, roughly 3 months, these student athletes had to work out by themselves, stay in shape, hold themselves accountable with whatever equipment they had to try to work out. With that context, and also keep in mind right now they're not able to do their standard conditioning tests. They can't go out on the field and run 110s and all that stuff. They're limited with what they're able to do right now. But listen to what Tommy Moffitt said. This is the good news, understanding what limited interaction they've had, how personally accountable every guy on this team has had to be. Listen to this.
If we were to run the conditioning test right now, we would have 80 to 85 guys passing right now. So it would be like this group just had a bunch of, like I just saw Austin Decky walk out of the Boudreaux box. If he took the conditioning test today, he would do better today than he's done the last 3 years he's been here. I mean, he came back in that good a shape. So it's really good. It's the other 15 to 20% that we have to worry about, because they're going to be the difference.
Look, 80 to 85 guys on your roster. That's basically your entire scholarship roster. And what that speaks to, in my opinion, is when you have all of your veteran guys that have bought in like that, that speaks to the culture you have in your program. And I'm not pandering here. That's just the nature of it. If you get 85 college athletes on their own to have this level of buy-in, to come back in shape where they could pass their conditioning test, that's incredible. That's an incredible amount of integrity when you talk about what you're doing when nobody's watching. And that's a testament to the program and the culture they've built. Now, the other thing that was pretty cool to hear and understand, we've talked a lot throughout the years. We got with Jack Marucci and with Shelley and with Tommy Moffitt about all the different technology that they have. This was really interesting from Coach Moffitt about how they're able to measure and use the technology they have to be able to determine where their student athletes are right now with their level of fitness relative to where they were.
So we knew all of the sets and all of the reps and all the velocities that the guys were doing before we broke, okay? Mm-hmm. So we looked for common weights and common reps, like, we'll say I did a set of 5 in squats during the off season at 240 pounds, and I did it at 0.85 meters per second. So when the guys came back, we wanted them to be able to take that same weight combination and a lightweight at 240 pounds and do it for 5 reps at the same velocity that they were doing it in March before we broke, and that will tell us if they squatted and where they are. So we did that. So we took all of our heart rates from all of the guys that have passed our conditioning test through the years while we had the technology, and we were able to track how much work that they were able to do, heart rate-wise, maximum, minimums, et cetera. And now we compare that to the running that we're doing now. So if my heart rate is higher doing less running than it did last year or the last 3 years that I passed my conditioning test, we know that they haven't been running. So we're using the technology that we have to our advantage to make sure that everyone's doing what they're supposed to do.
So it's not just Tommy Moffitt asking, hey, have you been working out? Like, they can literally measure these guys to determine their level of fitness relative to what it was whenever they left 3 months ago to determine if they've been doing what they say they've been doing. So LSU just starting the second week of workouts, but it appears as though the overwhelming majority of the roster's on track and things are going about as good as they can. And we wait to see if come July, more might open up for coaches and players to get back to work and even do some on-field work. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.